Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 126. Trap. Jiankang was covered with dense, dark clouds, and a light, continuous rain began to fall as the world sank into dim darkness. Xiang Shu rode on the horse, his head raised to look. He reached out a hand and caught some of the rainwater. "It's raining," Chen Xing said. Xiang Shu didn't reply. Instead, he spurred the horse onwards, leaving the city of Jiankang behind. "You guys are far too bold," Chen Xing murmured. "How many times have I said it?" Xiang Shu replied easily. "It's Xian's plan, not mine." Chen Xing kept thinking it over. Xian had actually, before they arrived in Jiankang, already set up this scheme. In that year that they had spent drifting around on the sea, Wang Zi hadn't taken action for that entire time precisely because of this as well. After all, Xiang Shu and Chen Xing were still here, which meant that no matter who Wang Zi captured, or even killed, that would be a futile effort. As long as the two of them came back, they were bound to return the sum they owed plus interest to Wang Zi. Which was why both Wang Zi and Xian, these two old scheming foxes, had both patiently waited. Xian wasn't afraid at all of Wang Zi not setting foot in this trap, because as long as Xiang Shu lost his power, Wang Zi was completely certain that he would be able to get all of them. With that, Xian had loudly and publicly announced that he was rebuilding the exorcism department. At a certain level, this was to create a false front to fool Wang Zi, so that upon building this obvious gathering point, they could lure him over to try and destroy it. With that, Xian's plan won out by a little, because Wang Zi would definitely set foot in this trap. At the moment, the most crucial thing was to steal back the Luohun Bell as fast as possible. Kuiji, underground, in the sea of Lihun flowers. "I will collect their hunpo," Wen Che said darkly, "that group of arrogant, foolish exorcists. They're already dead men walking, yet they're still having fun and drinking wine on their boat." From the earth veins, a swell of blood-colored energy took the form of Wang Zi. "Very good," Wang Zi said. "After this, Chen Xing will definitely come find you and try to steal back the Luohun Bell. If I have not guessed wrongly, he already has no one to depend upon at his side. In the exorcism department that Xian reconstructed, there are only some juniors with a low level of cultivation, so more likely than not, he will have Sima Wei at his side." But Wen Che replied, "He may not necessarily come here, never mind that. How would he know about my hiding spot?" Wang Zi replied, "This, you do not need to concern yourself over. All you need to do is wait here. If I have not guessed wrongly, he will come, because aside from here, there is nowhere else he can go, so he will definitely come here to try his luck. When that time comes, do what I have taught you. I won't say any more. I'm going to make the preparations now, so that I can start attacking their gathering spot. This time, I will squash them completely." Wen Chen bowed very slightly. Wang Zi added, "Once you capture him alive, remember to bring him to our Lord." "Yes," Wen Che replied. Outside the city of Kuiji, at twilight, Xiang Shu didn't alert anyone as he led Chen Xing into the city. Chen Xing looked around at everything, saying, "Do we need to first send the residents away?" "No need," Xiang Shu said solemnly. "The battle will be over quickly, and our main goal is to take back the artifact." Chen Xing said, "But if we end up fighting like we did last time?" Xiang Shu furrowed his brow. "What did you say just now? That from now on, you'd listen to me. Did that count or not?" Chen Xing could only reply, "All right, I'll listen to you." Xiang Shu said unhappily, "Do you trust me so little?" They rode all the way to the outside of the magistrate's estate. Xiang Shu carried Chen Xing as he flipped over the wall, coming to that ancient well that they had gone down before. Chen Xing said, "Wen Che may not necessarily be hiding here." "He will be," Xiang Shu replied. "This is a trap that Wang Zi has laid out. Xian and him are both setting out traps for the other, so how can we not satisfy his wish? Wait. Chen Xing suddenly realized a very severe problem, and he came to a stop, asking, the last time we arrived here was during the silence of all magic, which was also 3 years before time turned back. N. Xiangshu got the rope. Last time, they had come together, along with Xiao Shan and Feng Qianjun. Chen Xing murmured, logically, we shouldn't know where Wenqie is hiding, so how did Wang Zi know that we knew where Wenqie was hiding? Xiangshu replied, he has already more or less guessed the situation based on the actions we've taken on this journey, as well as the understanding that Xian has of Wenqie's identity. The Dinghai Pearl originally possessed the power to turn back time, and since the revival of all magic happened overnight, this would not be a difficult conclusion to arrive at. He had Wenqie wait here for you because this was a trap, and it also confirms an important link in his guesses. He already knows. Chen Xing asked, surprised. Xiangshu tied the rope in a slip knot around his waist, before reaching a hand out to Chen Xing, indicating for him to come over. He's not an idiot, Xiangshu said, hugging Chen Xing. You all are one step ahead of him at every turn, and if even mortals feel that they've met you before, how could Wang Zi not? Chen Xing hugged Xiangshu tightly, and Xiangshu raised his feet a little, letting Chen Xing step on the top of his feet so that it was easy for him to exert force when necessary, and they slid together down towards the bottom of the well. Then he might. Xiangshu interrupted him. Even if he knows the entirety of what happened, he has no way to deal with us. Xiangshu, Chen Xing said quietly. The two of them slowly descended together in that darkness. Chen Xing heard Xiangshu's heart thumping away, beating at a rapid pace. Xiangshu. Your heart is beating too fast, Chen Xing said, having been suddenly distracted from his thoughts. That's not very healthy. Xiangshu. Of course, there are times when it beats slowly, Xiangshu said stiffly. If normal people's hearts beat like this every day, they would have long since died. Are there times? Chen Xing asked him doubtfully. But why is it that every time I hear it, your heart's always beating so fast? Xiangshu didn't want to explain it to Chen Xing at all. He looked at their surroundings, they hadn't reached the bottom yet, and he lowered his head to look at Chen Xing again. Is it that you want to kiss me? Chen Xing suddenly asked, laughing. Chen Xing couldn't help the multitude of thoughts that went through his head about last time when they had descended into the well together, especially when they had accidentally seen Bihun and Zhenglun in the room, which caused the sight of himself and Xiangshu doing those things to flash through his mind for a moment. I don't want to kiss you, Xiangshu said coldly. You're being naughty. When the two of them reached the ground, Xiangshu untied the rope around his waist. It's just that I feel, Chen Xing said, a little at a loss. Xiangshu came to a stop in the darkness. Chen Xing changed his mind, saving people was important, and now was not the time to argue, so he said, ah well, let's talk about it later. What should we do next? Do what I say. Xiangshu only spoke 4 words. The Lihun flowers gave off a weak blue light, and the earth veins appeared, reaching to the end of the dark, deep underground. Just like last time, Chen Xing walked through the long tunnel at the bottom of the well, entering the vast stone cavern region. Today, Jiankang was besieged by an evil wind, and the rain fell harder and harder as the thunder rumbled darkly overhead, hidden in the clouds. The rainwater actually carried a faint scent of rust and blood, and as it fell, it slowly turned black, enveloping the entirety of Jiankang. Sima Yao was currently sitting in the hall, discussing matters with his advisors, when a flash of wild lightning forked across the sky, and everyone stopped what they were saying. Pu Yang left his seat first, quickly coming to a stop in front of Taisha Palace, where he raised his head to look toward the sky. Dark red rain was seeping into the ground, and the group of officials were greatly shocked. Sima Yao walked out onto the platform up high, and under the cover of the eaves, he looked up towards the horizon. A scent of blood permeated the air, Pu Yang said, "Your Majesty, this subject must go take a look over in the eastern mountains." "Go ba," Sima Yao said. "Send my orders to the Yulin army, have the residents of the eastern mountains evacuated first." Over the past few nights, without knowing why, Sima Yao would have a dream once in a while. In the dream, an azure jiao wreaked havoc on the Huai River, slaughtering the common people. In the dense clouds, another explosion of thunder rumbled. The residents all noticed the strange happenings, and they left their doorways to look at the sky, letting out shocked cries. "Jin Emperor," a horrific, low voice resounded across the sky, speaking slowly, "Your fortunes have ended, and in this vast human realm, there will be a new emperor to replace you. Nothing can go against the will of the heavens. This is an edict issued by the heavens. If you continue to deny the error of your ways and continue along your path, you will meet the same fate as the supposed exorcism department." Right after, the dark clouds in the sky gathered into a human visage twisted in a fierce grimace, and it opened its huge mouth. Accompanying the startled cries of the thousands of inhabitants of Jiankang, that huge mouth spat out a white-boned dragon. On the dragon stood Wang Zi, with the Tianluo fan in hand, resentment seeping from him. The exorcists, under the direction of Zheng Lun and Bihan, formed ranks and walked out, each of them holding an artifact in hand as they turned towards the skies. Zheng Lun called solemnly, "You've finally come, Shi Hai. Were you unable to wait any longer?" Wang Zi chuckled coldly. "Your great exorcist has already died in Kuiji. If you hand over your artifacts and bring Xian's corpse out, you will be spared, otherwise." With a wave of the Tianluo fan, resentment began to gather wildly from across the heavens and the earth, gathering outside the exorcism department, where it revealed a pitch-black, sturdy body. That was a drought fiend king, whose entire body was wrapped in chains that were covered in talismans. It turned its head in all directions, its face twisted in a hideous grimace, and it let out a roar, as if it was a fierce beast that had been captured. "What is this?" Zheng Lun asked, frowning. Bihan held a long spear in his hand, and he stood in front of the group of exorcists. The protectors, who were martial arts practitioners, all surrounded that burly drought fiend king, protecting the exorcists. Sima Wei flexed his fingers, which let out the sounds of joints popping, and he came to the plaza in front of the main entrance to the exorcism department. He faced down that burly drought fiend king, but compared to him, the drought fiend king was like a small mountain, and it loomed over him by more than a head. Its dull eyes were filled with blood, and as soon as its fetters were undone, it would commit slaughter on a massive scale, not distinguishing between friend or foe. Wang Zi's hand holding the fan made a gesture, and he waved it gently. All of the talismans on the drought fiend king's body undid themselves, and the iron fetters broke. With that, it let out a bellow to the sky, and even the mountain ranges trembled at that. The white-boned dragon watched this from the skies with a hawk's gaze, a ball of black fire gathering in its mouth. Just as it was about to spew that towards the exorcism department, turning it into nothing but charred ashes. A youth's form, sitting on a decorated archway, said coldly, "It's you again." The rainwater flew every which way in that wild wind, and the youth's short hair was like embers. The long red scarf at his neck danced in the wind, and his upper body was bare. A warrior's fur robe was tied around his waist, and he wore a pair of Xiongnu-style warrior's trousers. One foot was propped against the white jade archway, while the other dangled in the air, and a steel claw was on each hand, flashing with lightning. Wang Zi startled. That youth was Xiao Shan, but the Jiangnan exorcists had never seen him before, so they raised their heads and peered up at him. A strange smile appeared on Wang Zi's face, and he mocked, "Interesting. Have you come back to be buried alongside your friends?" Xiao Shan raised a claw and pointed it at the heavens. Immediately, lightning flashed and thunder pealed, and at the same time, the ball of black flames that had gathered in the white-boned dragon's mouth erupted towards the archway. Xiao Shan let out an enraged bellow, and his claws flashed out. He still sat there majestically on the archway, not a hair out of place as he pulled the lightning and thunder from the heavens to himself, before sending it rushing towards Wangzi. The black flames were instantly split by that lightning, turning into countless embers that fell like a torrential rain towards the exorcism department. However, in the center of the exorcism department, on the balcony of the third floor, the zheng drum that Xian had offered up before began to revolve. The artifact called the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth to it, sending it to the array down below. The protective barrier immediately rose, enveloping all the structures of the exorcism department, stopping the meteorite shower that the white bone dragon had sent down at them. In the underground of Kuiji, at the end of the darkened earth veins, I have many things that I truly cannot puzzle through. Wen Che stood in the sea of Lihan flowers, that huge azure jiao following by his side. Upon hearing footsteps, he turned and looked towards the entrance. Chen Xing was alone. He had a ball of light in his left hand, and the light of the heart lamp lit up the sea of Lihan flowers, shining towards Wen Che. Wen Che turned, revealing a beautiful visage. His eyebrows were thin and arched, like that of a painting, and his lips were as thin as a sharp edge, carrying with them a faint hint of unease. I know it was you who killed the Yao Jiao and saved the lives of all the people, yet you were put to death by the emperor of the human realm, Chen Xing said earnestly. You saved the world, yet you were treated as a monster by the people who you protected. But this isn't the reason that you swore allegiance to Chu, is it? Wen Che, who do you think you are? Chen Xing, let's have a nice long chat, Wen Darren. I am the current great exorcist, in charge of the exorcism department in the human realm. If you are willing to give up, I will announce the truth to the world and absolve you of your crimes, and also redress the situation. How's that? I'll also kowtow soundly to you 3 times on behalf of the people and beg you to never deny the error of your ways again. Wen Che immediately flew into a great rage, and he shouted, foolish beyond saving. How can I be placated with just these? But as he said this, Chen Xing knelt with a thump in front of Wen Che, immediately kowtowing to him. Wen Che. Chen Xing kowtowed first, then said, back then, when I read the records in the exorcism department, how greatly did I look up to you and Senior Xin Yuanping. In the blink of an eye, you are now my enemy, and my heart truly quivers in fear. With that, Chen Xing gave him another sound kowtow. Wen Che held the Luohun bell in his hand, stunned for a time. If I had not read of your stories back then, Chen Xing said, tears in his eyes, I would not have walked down this path either. But senior, how is it that you have become? Wen Che couldn't stop trembling as he watched Chen Xing, stunned. Right then, from behind, Xiang Shu, with a wave of his shield, hit the back of Wen Che's head with a pen. With that hit of Xiang Shu's that he had put his entire life's cultivation into, Wen Che's head went to one side, and his neck snapped. With a whoosh, he flew out, slamming headfirst into the cavern wall. After that, Xiang Shu flicked a silver tail, which rotated into the air and hit the Luohun bell with a ding. Chen Xing hurriedly got to his feet and grabbed the handle of the Luohun bell. In the next moment, that venomous jiao let out a wild roar, turning its body and wriggling as it rushed towards Xiang Shu. With a turn, Xiang Shu waved his shield, giving it another strike, and with another loud boom, he slammed its gaping maw shut. Look, Xiang Shu said. What's so hard about this? Wen Che struggled to rise from the ground, and Chen Xing held the Luohun bell, still dazed. Upon seeing that jiao swiftly slither away into the darkness, he immediately shouted, I've got the bell. Retreat quickly. Xiang Shu rushed towards Chen Xing, but the jiao behind them was completely enraged and charged wildly towards them. Chen Xing shouted, where's Wen Che? Don't mind him. Xiang Shu said. Release the souls of Xian and the rest of them. It's too far. Chen Xing replied. Right now, if I activate the Luohun bell in reverse, the Hunpo will get sucked away by the divine vein instead. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing, we can only release the Hunpo when we get to Jiankang, let's go quickly. In Xiangshu's multitude of calculations, he actually hadn't planned for them to only be able to activate it after they returned. In this instant, the venomous Jiao behind him had already opened its huge mouth, rushing towards them, and Xiangshu pushed Chen Xing, saying, "Run in front. I'll stop it." Chen Xing immediately said, "We can't fight here, the surface will collapse. Just now I told you to evacuate the citizens beforehand, but you didn't. Stop nagging." Xiangshu was about to die of anger. Chen Xing ran until he was gasping for air, rushing through the path they had taken here into the tunnel. He reached a hand out to pull Xiangshu, but just as they entered the tunnel, that venomous Jiao had been provoked, and it ignored Wenqie, squeezing furiously inside as it moved to bite the two of them to death. Xiangshu couldn't run in front, but if he waited behind, Chen Xing was slow at escaping. The tunnel was very narrow, but that venomous Jiao didn't heed any of that as it squeezed in as if its life depended on that. It let out a roar, and it spewed out a poisonous fog. The heart lamp. When Xiangshu heard that roar, he immediately stopped in his tracks, turning on the spot. The shield appeared in his hands, and he blocked in front of him. Chen Xing turned with him and ignited the heart lamp. The shield once again appeared, immediately blocking the poisonous green fog that seeped forth. Cough. Cough. Chen Xing's chest hurt greatly, and Xiangshu immediately covered his nose and mouth. Just as the two of them were about to continue running, they found that that venomous Jiao was no longer chasing them. The size of the tunnel just so happened to be the same size as the venomous Jiao's body, and it was as if the snake, from head to tail, had been stuffed into a bamboo tube. The Jiao got firmly stuck in the tunnel, and it couldn't move forward nor backwards. "Is it stuck?" Chen Xing asked. The venomous Jiao. That venomous Jiao struggled greatly, yet it was unable to break free. Xiangshu watched it curiously, and the venomous Jiao's eyes bulged as it opened its mouth, crying out loudly. Its head moved a few times, but it was unable to move the rest of its body. Chen Xing. Outside the passageway, Wenqie had put in a large amount of effort before he finally managed to get his head on straight again. He rose and looked around confusedly at his surroundings, only to see a tail reaching out from the passageway, slapping around at its surroundings. "Fujun," Wenqie said hurriedly, before he walked forward swiftly, picked up that tail, and began to pull it out. However, it was truly stuck too well, and even though he put in all his might, he couldn't pull it out. In the tunnel, Xiangshu held the shield in his hand as he slowly walked towards that venomous Jiao. Chen Xing said, "What now? Should we leave right now, while it's stuck?" The venomous Jiao suddenly opened its mouth, letting out a loud roar. Xiangshu lifted his shield decisively, rushing towards its huge mouth, and he shoved the shield into its mouth, making sure that it was completely stuck. The venomous Jiao. With that, the venomous Jiao had no way to shout, nor could it move. With its upper and lower jaws propped open, it was completely stuck against the wall of the cave. "Can you purify it?" Xiangshu turned his head to ask Chen Xing. Chen Xing slowly walked forward, saying, "I'll try." He hadn't used the heart lamp to purify any living things aside from humans yet, and he raised a hand, not knowing where to press. At that, Xiangshu took his other hand in his own, tangling their fingers together, and Chen Xing slowly pressed his hand to the upper jaw of this venomous Jiao. There was a sudden boom, and the light disappeared. This time, even Xiangshu's consciousness was dragged into that venomous Jiao's regret. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 127. Golden Dragon. A wild wind blew, and in that instant, Chen Xing rose from the ground, kneeling with one knee to the dragon's head. He was riding on a brilliant golden dragon as they flew across the 9 heavens. "I'm going to fall." Chen Xing immediately began to shout loudly. Hold on tight. Xiang Shu's voice was steady and powerful, and with a slight turn of his powerful body, Chen Xing immediately grabbed his dragon horns. He asked, shocked, Xiang. Xiang Shu. Aside from that time in Xiang Shu's heart, this was the first time that he and Xiang Shu had entered a dream together. And the divine dragon of creation that he was riding on actually spoke with Xiang Shu's voice. Xiang Shu. Is that you? Chen Xing asked, astonished. The power of the dragon, Xiang Shu said. The power that father gave me. Xiang Shu's consciousness had turned into a huge dragon, and that pair of horns sparkled, coral-like, with the color of golden dust. The dragon's body flickered in and out of view, taking on the form of the soul. Only the head and horns were very solid, which gave Chen Xing a solid spot to ride on. You can actually turn into a dragon. Chen Xing exclaimed. Is it only in the dream world? Stop asking. Xiang Shu's voice said. Go, let's head down. With that, the golden dragon took Chen Xing along, and with a turn, it passed through the clouds and flew into the human realm. Layer upon layer of water vapor suddenly parted, revealing the roiling Si river. That azure jiao was currently circling in the air above the water, creating huge waves that reached for the sky. Wen Che was flying in the air, and with one finger pointing to the sky, a strange array appeared. It looked like a unique artifact. The mountains and rivers, the lay of the land, everything changed as that artifact transformed. The rivers changed course, the mountain ridges gathered together, all to bind that azure jiao. Where's Xin Yuanping? Xiang Shu's voice shouted. The jiao dragon is Xin Yuanping. Chen Xing shouted loudly. This is what happened after Xin Yuanping was poisoned and transformed. Xiang Shu replied, then is that Wen Che? Chen Xing wasn't very sure either on whether the Wen Che in this memory of regret was the real Wen Che, who had been brought into Xin Yuanping's regret by the heart lamp activating, or if he was merely an illusionary Wen Che in Xin Yuanping's memory of regret. The venomous jiao writhed and bellowed. The golden dragon, still carrying Chen Xing, hovered in the air, teeth and claws at the ready, as they both watched. Sorry, Wen Che's voice contained sobs. Sorry, Fei. Immediately, Wen Che pulled back the power of the artifact in his left hand, and the mountains instantly wrapped around it tightly, chaining that jiao in place. In his right hand, an ancient wooden sword appeared, and he flew towards the jiao. The jiao, with a stranger's voice, roared, I am not reconciled to this outcome. Chen Xing. The last time they had come to Jiangnan, he had learned that Xin Yuanping and Wen Che had once worked together to slaughter the Jiao and Yao that brought havoc to the world, but because of the deadly poison in his body, the poison spread throughout Xin Yuanping's body as time passed. That caused him to be possessed by the resentful thoughts of those venomous Jiao, and sharp horns sprouted from his head, scales grew over his body, and the venomous Jiao had taken him over. In the end, did Wen Che kill this Jiao? The golden dragon asked. He didn't, but Chen Xing suddenly came to a realization, and he changed what he was going to say. He did. He must have killed Xin Yuanping, and only after that did he fall in with Wang Zi, thus reviving Xin Yuanping. The golden dragon observed what was going on below, and he said darkly, dying to Wen Che's hands was his regret. An exorcist, who had once slaughtered the Yaoguai and protected the people, became a Yaoguai himself. In the end, the emperor of the humans issued an order against Xin Yuanping, that he be sunk into the river and killed. But he did not die. Some decades later, he flew out of the river, and Wen Che had no choice but to face down the lover that he had once swore unending vows with, and raise his sword to kill him. As expected, Wen Che's body was stuck in the air, and he couldn't resist turning his head away. His tears drifted away on the wind. I have no choice but to act, Fei, Wen Che choked out. Let us meet again, in the next life. His robes fluttered in the wind, and the venomous Jiao raised its head, letting out a loud roar of despair. But in the next moment, there was a dragon's roar in the sky. Chen Xing and the golden dragon separated from each other, descending from the heavens. Chen Xing's entire body was shining with light as he leapt towards Wenqie, and he pressed one hand against Wenqie's forehead, activating the heart lamp as he shouted, "Break!" The heart lamp flashed and its light exploded outwards. Wenqie was caught off guard, and he was sent hurtling towards the ground below. Chen Xing bent over and landed, immediately going forward to check on Wenqie, before shouting, "Xiangshu! This is Wenqie. It's him." They're using the resonance from igniting their mana together. The mountains shook, the earth quaked, and the crumbling of the peaks, the overflow of the river's banks, and the collapse of the trees drowned out Chen Xing's voice. That golden dragon descended from the sky, its 5 claws reaching out at once, firmly grabbing that venomous Jiao. The original Wenqie began to dissipate under the power of the heart lamp, and the barrier that the artifact had created instantly disappeared. The Jiao was just about to struggle and break free, only for that 5 claws golden dragon to pin it in place. In that instant, fresh blood spewed across the sky. Chen Xing ran to high ground, avoiding the rushing water, shouting, "Xiangshu!" The venomous Jiao bellowed loudly and turned its head to face the golden dragon, spewing out its poisonous miasma. The golden dragon, however, did not back up at all. It gathered up its dragon might, and like the venomous Jiao, it let out a wild roar. The two dragons faced each other down, fighting each other, but the golden dragon's power could only be described with the word apocalyptic. It was just like the last time, when Xiangshu had stopped the Jiao with only his bare hands, the illusion of the golden dragon appearing behind him. Fear immediately struck the Jiao, and it wanted to turn and flee, but the golden dragon's claws had already dug deep into its body, and that rotten blood spurted forth. "Where is the devil god's blood?" Chen Xing asked doubtfully, holding the unconscious Wenqie. Every time he expelled a devil, it was always accompanied by the appearance of the devil god's blood within the person's body. That was the embodied despair within the corrupted person's soul, but where was the devil god's blood in Xin Yuanping's consciousness? In the span of another breath, that golden dragon turned gracefully in the air, ripping open that venomous Jiao's body, pulling out a writhing Jiao made of blood. The blood Jiao twisted into an odd shape, and it struggled with all its might and broke free of Xiangshu's control, roaring as it was about to fly away. The devil god's blood. That was a devil Jiao that had been born from the devil god's blood. Chen Xing watched, dumbfounded, as a man walked to his side and knelt down, meeting Chen Xing's gaze. That was a stranger's face. He bent over, and with one hand, took Wenqie, taking his hand in his own. "I'll go check on Xiangshu." Chen Xing sensed that this was definitely Xin Yuanping, but Xiangshu was still in the air, fighting with that Jiao formed from devil god's blood. He handed Wenqie to Xin Yuanping, before quickly turning and running. The blood Jiao roared, "All that you protect, one day, will betray you." The golden dragon let out a bellow that shook the world as it released its dragon aura. It roared, "Foolish and disgusting thing that does not know its own limits, fuck off." Chen Xing spread his arms, flying into the air in the world of thought, landing on the golden dragon's head. "Chen Xing, Xiangshu. Take me up there. I'll purify it." Xiangshu's voice was deep and powerful. "I have never been obsessed with protecting this world. The only thing Guowang has to protect is merely one person." In the next moment, the golden dragon suddenly sped up, bringing Chen Xing with it as it flew towards the blood Xiao. The heart lamp glowed brightly in Chen Xing's hand, and it flashed in that vast world. In that instant, the golden dragon turned into a sharp sword, and it shot through the air, stabbing clean through that blood Xiao. The devil god's blood that had lasted for some hundreds of years immediately vanished in the air, dots of light turning into flakes of snow. It was just like when Zhou Zhen had left, those flakes floated gently into the world. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing landed on the ground. Xin Yuanping wore the robes of a great exorcist, and he knelt on the ground, hugging the unconscious Wen Che in his embrace. He raised his head and looked towards the two of them. Xin Yuanping. Xiang Shu said, frowning. Thank you, Xin Yuanping said quietly. I have finally managed to be freed from these hundreds of years of torment. Chen Xing held Xiang Shu's hand as he looked at Xin Yuanping. Xin Yuanping looked completely different from how he had imagined him to be. Aside from his height, his features and visage all looked relatively plain. He didn't have the beauty of Xiang Shu, nor did he possess the grace of Xian. If it were not for his identity as the great exorcist, this person would look no different from the myriad of normal humans. His face was gaunt, yet his eyes held warmth. There were still several jiao scales on his cheek, which looked very startling. Are you a little better? Chen Xing asked. It's like I had a long dream, Xin Yuanping sighed. He lowered his head to look at Wen Che again, his eyes filled with wistfulness, and he stroked Wen Che's face. Chen Xing was a little worried, afraid that Xin Yuanping would be like Zhou Zhen, giving upon the desire to live and becoming one with the world. Xin Yuanping, however, said, what you have in you, that's the heart lamp ba. Chen Xing nodded. Xiang Shu wanted to say something, but Chen Xing shook his head. He knew Xiang Shu wanted to hurry him, but at this time, there was no harm in letting Xin Yuanping organize the causes and effects. After all, he had just come back to himself. What year is it now? Xin Yuanping asked. The 6th year of Taiyuan, Chen Xing replied. It has already been over 500 years since you died. Xin Yuanping fell silent, before saying quietly, so, he waited for 500 years. Back then, the promise that I made with him was actually fulfilled with you. Ah well. Xiang Shu. All around them, their surroundings began to shatter, and they returned to the underground tunnel. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing suddenly startled, because in front of them was still Xin Yuanping, who was sitting on the ground, hugging Wen Che. How did you manage to find me? Xin Yuanping asked at last. Chen Xing and Xiang Shu exchanged a glance. In Jiankang. In front of the eastern mountains, Wang Zi had already accomplished what he had set out to do, and was battling with the exorcists now. Xiao Shan's return had supplied the exorcists with a good deal of strength, and the lightning struck down savagely. The young exorcists all called upon their magic, bearing witness to this unrivaled battle. Even those young people who had yet to learn magic were standing to one side, cheering them on. High up in the palace, Sima Yao watched, dumbfounded, before he swiftly walked out. A group of people anxiously held the emperor back, begging profusely, Your Majesty, you must not go, it is truly too dangerous. Sima Yao raged, these valiant men are spilling their blood in this battle. How can Zhen stay huddled in the palace? Come with me. Come closer. Watch closely. Pu Yang hurriedly came over. In a bit, if the emperor got caught, that was no joke, but since the books all said that the emperor of the human realm had the protection of the Ziwei star, Wang Zi had probably not attacked Sima Yao at all for his own reasons. Prepare some tea and refreshments, Sima Yao said. Come, come, Zhen wishes to watch this battle with his own eyes. You only want to watch the excitement. Chen Xing's voice suddenly raged. Take His Majesty back into the palace. A Jiao dragon suddenly swept over the plaza outside the palace, bringing a strong gust of wind with it. Wang Zi was furious, and wave after wave of that meteorite rain came crashing down on the protective barrier outside the exorcism department. The earth trembled, and it kept shaking that barrier that had been created from the Zhen drum. With a few more rounds of wild shaking, that protective barrier would be completely destroyed. Xiao Shan used all his might to call upon the lightning, which struck Wang Zi and the bone dragon he was riding on repeatedly. Wang Zi held the Tianluo fan in his left hand, resentment covering the sky and earth, while in his right, he had the Kanglang Pearl. Instantly, the entirety of the water in the Huai River flowed in the opposite direction, rushing up to the eastern mountains. The exorcists and protectors used all their might to face down that sturdy Ghost King, only for the Ghost King to turn into a swift shadow and slash out. No one seemed to be able to withstand that glaive, and no matter who held off those blows, their weapons all snapped. Exorcists, protectors, listen to my orders. A beam of the heart lamp broke through the darkness, and Chen Xing's voice accompanied that light as it resounded through the world. Wang Zi swiftly turned his head to look towards where the voice was coming from. Split up and head into Jiankang to protect the citizens, Chen Xing shouted. Sima Wei. Go protect the emperor. The exorcists all shouted together, we hear and obey. Sima Wei put his weapons away, leaving the exorcism department. In an instant, the light of the array glowed, and under the archway in the eastern mountains, everyone split off to all corners of Jiankang. With a cold chuckle, Wang Zi poured all his energy into the Kanglang Pearl. In the next moment, the light of the heart lamp converged into a single point. With a dang, the Luohun bell rang. Wang Zi immediately widened his eyes. In the exorcism department, in the main pavilion, on the third floor, Xian, Feng Qianjun, and Tuoba Yan opened their eyes at the same time. Xiao Shan, go take care of the Ghost King. Chen Xing shouted. Don't mind that dragon. On the plaza below the archway, Wang Zi chuckled coldly. You even managed to get Wen Che. Over here. Wang Hai. Xin Yuanping's voice called as he flew, carrying Xiang Shu and the unconscious Wen Che. The azure Jiao bit down hard on the bone dragon's nape, and with an angered bellow, Wang Zi was tossed off the dragon's head. Unfortunately, that bone dragon was truly massive in size, and when the azure Jiao hovered in front of it, its Yao power was not even a tenth of the bone dragon's. It could only fight with brute force in the air, and Xiang Shu shouted, the heart lamp. Chen Xing landed on the plaza and activated the heart lamp. Xiang Shu took the form of the protector martial god, and he borrowed the power of the azure Jiao and bone dragon colliding to leap onto the dragon's head, swinging his shield towards it. But instantly, the bone dragon flipped over fiercely, sending Xiang Shu flying out. The azure Jiao and the bone dragon began to fight fiercely, and Xiang Shu's gilded martial robes flapped wildly as he spun through the air, scattering golden powder. Chen Xing stood in front of the gold and jade screen wall in the center of the exorcism department, his left hand behind his back, his right hand holding up the heart lamp. Wang Zi had the Tianluo fan in his left hand and the Kanglang Pearl loosely in his right, and all of the water in the 10 li of the Huai River rose into the air, creating a huge wave that began to crash down over the city of Jiankang. Chen Xing, Wang Zi said. We meet again. Chen Xing replied, we will have to fight each other with magic one day, and there's no time like the present. How about we do it right here? Undo the magic of the Kanglang Pearl, and let's have a fair fight based on our abilities alone. Wang Zi chuckled. Since you want to have a fight of magic, then how can there be no sacrifices? Don't you think that one battle that takes the lives of 100,000 commoners is very exciting? Chen Xing shouted angrily, you were once a mortal too. What crimes have the mortals committed? Wang Zi made a gesture, and he put the Tianluo fan away. The Kanglang Pearl rose into the air, and the bone dragon immediately flew over, biting down on it and taking it away. Light shone forth from the dragon's mouth as the dragon pearl once again melded with the bone dragon, causing huge waves on the Huai River, which washed over the entire city of Jiankang. You only have a single heart lamp, Wang Zi murmured, raising his head. Though I do not know how Shulakong managed to escape the fetters of the Luohun bell, thanks to the power of the Tianluo fan, all of those mortals that have died will provide me with endless resentment. Since you are not willing to undo the power of the Kanglang Pearl, Chen Xing said, then I will no longer observe the rules either. With that, the bone dragon wreaked havoc everywhere, and that huge wave came crashing down. However, in the city of Jiankang, the exorcists that had all scattered each called on their magic, pushing together loose rocks and wood, which layered on themselves in the air, blocking that catastrophe from the Huai River. In the air, Xiangshu lured that bone dragon towards him, and as his body revolved again and again, he scattered motes of the light of magic that landed on the plaza in front of the exorcism department. The azure jiao had already caught that bone dragon in its coils, and it flew higher with great difficulty, calling, "Is it still not done?" Xiangshu shouted, "Soon." "Ha, ah." Xiao Shan leapt up from the archway into the air, snagging that bone dragon with a claw as he shouted, "Gig! I'll come help you." Across the plaza, Chen Xing and Wang Zi stood facing each other. The Tianluo fan in Wang Zi's hand made a reappearance, and he shook it open, shouting, "Come! Great exorcist!" Resentment immediately rushed forth from the Tianluo fan, and the darkness surrounding them began to take on tangible forms, blanketing the sky and earth as it rushed towards Chen Xing. Right after, Xian shouted from behind the screen wall, "Little Shidi! I'm coming to help." Xian and Feng Qianjun rushed out speedily from the two sides. Xian wore 4 signet rings of different colors on his fingers, while Feng Qianjun pulled out Senluo Wangxiang, drawing the resentment away. Tuoba Yan leapt up onto the screen wall, drew his bow, knocked an arrow, and loosed it at Wangzi. Wangzi was immediately forced back by the magic, yet Chen Xing didn't move at all. As soon as he withdrew the power of the heart lamp, Xiangshu would definitely lose the power of the martial god, so he could only remain standing in front of the screen wall. Xian and Feng Qianjun stood to his two sides, protecting him. "Go help them." Chen Xing glanced at the sky, where Xiangshu and Xin Yuanping that had transformed into that azure jiao were already caught up in a bitter battle. That bone dragon had been roused from its rest at the bottom of Lake Tai by Wangzi, and with the Kang Lang pearl at hand, it was truly too difficult to fight against. When he looked for the ghost king that Xiao Shan had led away, it had already gone to who knows where. Lightning set the eastern mountains alight, and a wildfire began to burn. "Chen Xing!" Tuoba Yan shouted anxiously. "Do as I say." Chen Xing shot a glance at Xian. Xian immediately understood, and he yelled, "Do as he says. Go." The 3 of them each pulled themselves away and left. In the air, Xiangshu led the bone dragon in circles, before he reached out and grabbed the dragon's spine. He let out a wild roar, actually managing to make a crack between 2 segments of the bone dragon. Xin Yuanping shouted, "Your helpers have arrived." End chapter.